welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, July 27th, 2023. I am Rochelle Baptiste with the details. The government of SVG must take responsibility for the situation facing the National Insurance Services, the NIS, by failing to take early interventions for pension reform. This is according to leader of the opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, who at a news conference yesterday said they have been speaking for quite some time consistently on the financial troubles facing the NIS, given its importance in the society, but the warnings sounded several years ago were not heeded by the government. Dr. Friday said, as things stand, according to the 11th actuarial review presented in Parliament on July 13, 2023, the NIS is set to run out of money in or by 2034. He noted that in one budget after the other, the finance minister himself acknowledged the problem, talked tough, but failed to take action.
I'll give you an example. In the 2020 budget address, this is what the minister said. He said in 2018 and 2019 budget speeches, the government highlighted the urgency of pension reform in the near term. In 2018, the budget listed 6 options for pension reform in an attempt to initiate public debate on the issue. The response was tepid. That's what they say in the budget to the people. I guess they say people don't care. Last year, I'm quoting still, we established a pension reform steering committee of senior officials and mandated them to study the problem, make recommendations to government, and manage the public consultation process. In 2020, the committee engaged, or the committee will engage extensively with stakeholders and the general public as we attempt to both educate and learn from others about the most efficient way to implement pension reform. In recent consultations with leaders of the labor movement, the government was encouraged by the willingness to engage frankly and constructively on the issue. And it says by year's end, as 2020, we hope to have arrived at a common understanding on how necessary reforms will be implemented. But we're still not there. We're still going through that process. We still have to wait on the government to act.
According to the opposition leader, the situation with the NIS jeopardizes the pensions of all of its members, with serious financial and economical implications for the whole society.
So it's not just the people who are paying into NIS and who expect to get the pension that will be affected. If the NIS is no longer able to perform in the way that is required, all of us, everybody, will feel the effect, the negative effect of it. The current situation threatens to shred our most important economic safety net, that is the NIS. Most pensioners, I believe the executive director said that up to about 85% of pensioners have no other source of income during their retirement. They rely on the NIS. This means that the NIS is the only lifeline in retirement. Of course, some people get a little change from abroad and so forth, or continue to find employment elsewhere, do something to catch their hand. But this is the only regular source of income that they receive is from their NIS pension. This means that the NIS is the only lifeline. It means that it must survive. It means that it must be made healthy again. That is something that we have to agree on as a society, and certainly we in the Democratic Party, we came to that position a very long time ago. It has to exist. In fact, our plan is even to expand into national health insurance for our people. But we'll deal with that at another time. How did the NIS get to this point of crisis? The government must take responsibility for it. They failed to act when they were advised to do so. Even in their own budget addresses, they acknowledge that. And here I quoted from the executive summary of the 11th actuarial review, where it said that the recommendations from the previous one were still not implemented. So they delayed and postponed action that would have made it easier to conduct reforms had they been done in a timely manner, and would have averted the current crisis. They put politics ahead of the welfare of pensioners by giving the impression that things were not as bad as they seem.
The opposition leader also told the news conference that the ULP in its 2020 manifesto pointed out that the 11th actuarial review will likely result in improved pensions and other benefits, but these have not materialized.
So you want to tell me the 2010, as I quoted earlier, the 10th actuarial review, which said pretty much the same thing as this, they had it in their possession, yet they go into the election and telling people that the next one that coming, that they're going to likely have improved pension benefits.
Imagine that.
Imagine that indeed. They knew better when they promised that, which I read there, because the previous actuarial review, as I said, had made similar findings. I don't have that review because we don't have the 10th, we don't have the 9th, we don't have any other. This is the only one we have. And I'll tell you why they decided to put it out. So I don't have the review from 2010, the 10th the 10th actual review, although Parliament is required to have it under the law. But in this current review, this is the 11th actual review, it says at page 3, after looking at the projections going forward, this is what it says. It says these results are similar to those in the 10th actuarial review. And once again, this is their words, once again show that the fund is not financially sustainable over the medium and long terms at the current benefit provisions and contribution rate. That's at page 3. It's in the executive summary, easy to find. So they are saying that what was there, and I think it's the same people that the actuarial study, the 10th actuarial review. What they're saying is the same thing we have here. They had this since the 2010 one, and yet you go into an election telling people that you're likely going to have better benefits, and you continue essentially to kick the can down the road without treating it with the level of seriousness, and all of a sudden it is the most serious matter that we are confronted with.
Dr. Friday noted that the 11th actuarial review of the NIS calls for serious action, as it pointed out that the NIS fund is projected to be depleted in less than 15 years, with meaningful changes urgently required, and that policymakers should not depend on hope for results but adopt rational responses to the specific challenges that lie ahead, while acknowledging that implementing the recommendation will not be easy for the government to make and stakeholders to accept. The opposition leader said it was also pointed out that extensive consultations be held and that the board of the NIS published audited financial statements and actuarial review reports during such consultations.
So the writers of the review, they knew that the government had not been making reports available to the public. They had not been transparent with the public. So now that the situation is dire, they're urging transparency and consultation. Before now, the NIS was run like a homeless kingdom. No actuarial reports laid in the Parliament, although required by law. Board appointments secretive and opaque. The last financial statement, audited financial statement, on their website dates back to 2020. And the actuary prepared this report dated August 31st, 2021. And still, the recommendation, a simple thing like that, is putting this document so that you, the journalists, and everybody in our society can have a look at it themselves. It's still not on the website. I want to call again that the document be placed on the website immediately, urgently. That the report that they also will get from the World Bank that they said that they have received, that has studied this document, be likewise put there. That the audited financial statements be put up to date on the website. People need to know what the condition of their NIS is. This is not a matter for the board. This is not a matter for government. This is all of us who are in jeopardy if this thing is not dealt with effectively.
According to Dr. Friday, given the great importance of the NIS to the well-being of citizens and the country, the NDP or the opposition will play their part and continue to be constructive. However, he said the government holds all the cards and has a responsibility to present its plan for the NIS to the nation, as the future of many Vincentians depend on it and will determine whether many descend into poverty or enjoy a decent standard of living in their retirement. In other news now, we hear that after complaints from outbound and inbound travelers about searing heat conditions inside the immigration and departure areas at the Argyle International Airport, which reportedly lack working air conditioning, the airport authorities issued a statement on the matter through a news release. The release said the Argyle International Airport Inc. is aware of the reports regarding unpleasant conditions relating to inadequate cooling in the passenger terminal building, and they are using the opportunity to extend a sincere apology to the traveling public, staff and all stakeholders for the less than ideal conditions experienced while using the facilities. According to the airport authorities, the final phase of the planned upgrade of the air conditioning system commenced on July 17, 2023, following an advisory under the heading Airport Operational Bulletin issued on July 14, 2023. It said the estimated completion date for the work to be carried out is July 29, 2023, and that prior phases of the work on the AC systems included immigration, arrivals hall, baggage claim, and upstairs international departure lounge have been returned to normal operations and cooling, enabling the comfort of their service partners and inbound travelers. The airport news release said as of today, the progress made on the final phase is as follows. The 8 older defective condensers have been replaced along with the defective components, and the refrigerant lines have been pressure tested. It said the next step will be to complete the electrical wiring vacuum the refrigerant lines, after which they will charge and the air conditioning system will be turned on. The airport authorities said they expect to complete and return normal cooling and comfort to the departure check-in area this weekend, and by next weekend normal cooling and comfort will return to departures, immigration, pre-board screening and in the area near gates 4 and 5. The news release ended by saying the AIA asks of and craves the patience and understanding of stakeholders as they work to improve your experience. At least 400 job opportunities will be available to Vincentians on a cruise line to enter the market in the next 2 or 3 months' time. This is according to Minister of Tourism Carlos James while addressing the launch of the National Community Tourism Consultation at the Methodist Church Hall last week.
You would recall some months ago I signed with, that time was Royal Caribbean, an MOU in which we facilitated the recruitment of roughly about 1,000 Vincentians to go back out on the seas. Many persons were saying, well, why are we sending people away to work on cruise ships? One of the things that we miss sometimes the most is that while on a cruise ship, persons are exposed to a high level and a high degree of training. And it is not that we want them to go out there to work and stay forever, but they will return to add value to our human resource capital and the persons we have on island as trained staff. And I'm also happy to announce here this consultation. I will not name the cruise line, but we are in discussions currently with another cruise line, and sometime within the next 2 months or so, we're hoping to have 2 or 3 months, we're hoping to have a cruise line coming directly to St. Vincent to recruit 400 Vincentians. In addition to the numbers which we secured with Royal Caribbean, another cruise line is coming to St. Vincent to recruit 400 Vincentians for job opportunities and also training. These are some of the things that we are doing within the Ministry of Tourism and doing behind the scenes to work and building our human resource capital to ensure that we have all of the right opportunities for wealth creation, job creation, and opportunities for Vincentians.
Minister James also told the gathering that beach vending continues to be a major issue in the tourism industry, which they will be dealing with soon.
When you look at the cruise ships that come to our islands, if you go to Villa Beach on a given day when there's a cruise ship, there's hardly any space because there are persons vending, and there are also persons who are also involved in the craft and the trade. I want to say currently, on the books, there's no statute that facilitates or allows for beach vending. So in fact, it is something that is even not considered permissible. And what we are hoping to do is to develop the policy and the regulations to allow, to legitimize beach vending so that persons are licensed to vend and to operate, and to do that in a way which marries all of the competing interests with persons who are using the beaches and persons who want to also earn a living. And we have to recognize the important value of persons who are trading at that very local level. So we are facilitating and regulating that aspect of it. All of these things we're hoping to do within the next few months as part of the policy framework which we're developing.
Minister James said as they continue to develop SVG's tourism products, stakeholders in the industry will be trained in a number of areas in the next few months.
We intend to, in a few months, commence a series of training for stakeholders, persons in the hospitality services. During a recent visit to Cuba, we signed a memorandum of understanding, both myself and the Minister of Tourism in Cuba. And he said immediately at my disposal were a number of experienced persons who are willing to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines to continue the training of hospitality service personnel. And that is something we're hoping we can commence within a few months as we embark on developing a broader stock of persons within the sector in terms of training as well.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines will soon be gaining significantly from the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, Caribbean Agricultural Productivity Improvement Activity, CAPA. The program is geared at boosting food security by the expansion of fruit and vegetable production, building the capacity of buyers and input suppliers to strengthen relationships with farmers and improving level extension systems. The initiative comprises 3 interrelated components, with each carrying specific roles to positively impact stakeholders, entrepreneurs and consumers across the region. Objective 1 seeks to increase smallholder market-led production of fruits and vegetables. Objective 2, improving domestic and regional market linkages for smallholder farmers. And Objective 3, strengthen public-private sector extension skills, capacity and systems to transfer best practices to smallholder farmers. The 3-year, $5.3 million US aid program will utilize an integrated value chain approach. The project is expected to incorporate the inclusion of on-farm technologies such as shade houses and climate-smart practices to fortify production and practical storage solutions to maintain shelf life. The news release said Minister of Agriculture, Soboto Caesar, met the officials of USAID and IECS on Wednesday, July 26, 2023, to cement further the CAPA that will be launched here in October. Minister Caesar stressed the importance of the collaborative effort to promote the growth and sustainability of the agricultural sector, with an emphasis on exploring great opportunities for the expansion of export markets through an international standardized framework. CAPA will implement interventions in Guyana, Suriname, Dominica, Barbados, Grenada, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, and here in SVG, catering to the main priorities of each country. Vincentians and others are expected to come together on Tuesday, August 1st, 2023 to celebrate Emancipation Day and the 50th anniversary of the Caribbean Community CARICOM with a special event at the Victoria Park. The event, scheduled to commence at 2 p.m., promises to be a momentous occasion to commemorate 5 decades of regional integration, cooperation and the collective journey towards freedom and unity among Caribbean nations. The CARICOM 50th anniversary celebration seeks to honor the visionaries and leaders who laid the foundation for regional cooperation in 1973. Over the past half-century, CARICOM has played a vital role in fostering economic development, social progress, cultural exchange, and movement of people among member states, creating an indelible impact on the lives of millions of people across the Caribbean. Cultural Officer in the Ministry of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture, Maxine Brown, said the Emancipation Day event is not only a special one for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but the entire Caribbean.
This production, One Family, will officially start at 2 p.m. with the kids' fair. And of course, we'll do things the kids love, the bouncing castle, the painting, and things of that nature, the full works. And then from 4 p.m., we'll enter into what we dub a pre-show, where we'll feature local talents, mainly the youth, the steep orchestra, the singers, the folk choir, as we dub it. We'll showcase our folk. And the main event will start at about 5 p.m., where we'll feature artists from around the Caribbean community, all CARICOM related. And so some lead acts include personnel like Alison Hines, we'll have Jamil, we'll have Skinny Fabulous, our very own Kevin Little Abuza, and the list goes on and on. And so I want to implore my fellow Vincentians to come out to this grand celebration on Emancipation Day, where it's free of charge. After all, we celebrate where we've come from. We celebrate CARICOM, 50 years strong, and that's a significant number. And so we want to give back to our community. And so the Department of Culture and all the associates who's collaborating with us will host one family. And the name is indicative of itself. We are asking you to bring out the entire family. We are one, as we celebrate Emancipation Month and 50th anniversary of CARICOM. And so there's a full production, a full package awaits you, free of cost. Come celebrate with us. It's Emancipation Month.
With St. Vincent and the Grenadines developing rapidly, exposed to many jurisdictions with daily movement across the region and the world, the country is going to be impacted by a number of new pathogens, new diseases, and new pests. This is according to Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel, who today on NBC Radio provided an update on the dangerous African giant snail found here recently in the South Leeward and West Kingston areas. Minister Daniel urged persons traveling in and out of the country to be extra careful so as to not return with any of the pathogens, diseases, or pests.
And so we have to be careful at our borders to the extent that when you're coming back into St. Vincent, that you do not bring any of these pathogens, pests, or diseases. The giant African snail, we are not even sure how it came in at this point in time. But knowing that we have the port at Camden Park and the African snail would have been found within that locale, one can only say that surely that area is the suspect for its importation. When the banana industry was alive, black sigatoka was in Grenada, our closest neighbor, for many years. Moko, again, was in Grenada for some 28 years before it came into St. Vincent. And it warrants that we had measures established at the ports, but sometimes you have the extraordinary things happening, and so you may have the slip coming through a crack. And we have to be able to be visible and to be mindful of what can happen through cross-border operations.
The Acting Prime Minister said further measures will be taken to keep out these dangerous pests.
So today we are bombarded by the giant African snail. There were other pests and diseases that were introduced prior to this pest. And there is going to be more coming in. But of course, we just have to ensure that the controls are there at the border, at the borders of our country, at our ports, seaports and airports, and to see how much we can manage the operations to limit the introduction of new pests and diseases. But we are a growing nation, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines is now exposed more to other countries in the world. The Argyle International Airport is now the gateway to the world, and so the traffic is expected to be heightened more and more. But we just have to ensure that the measures at the ports are maintained. So there's where we are as it relates to that issue. Johnny PD, the Ministry of Transport and Works.
On July 11, 2023, giant African snails were confirmed to be present on the premises of the Otley Hall Marina. The snails multiply quickly. Each mature snail can lay up to 1,200 eggs per year and has few natural enemies to curb population numbers. Minister Daniel said that the Ministry of Agriculture continues to do work in the identified areas to reduce the population of the giant African snail.
Stated last week that in terms of the management and the elimination of the giant African snail, that you have to be careful, that your touch with your fingers can result in some problems to you in terms of your own health, and we ask that you continue to, once you identify the presence of the pest in any area, that you call in the Ministry of Agriculture to help you in the catching of this pest. There is some level of where you can suffer from the actions of the poisonous actions of this pest. And we continue to ask of you to ensure that the Ministry of Agriculture is part and parcel of your management program so that we can all be again happy as to the control.
The Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment is also keeping a close eye on the giant African snail. District Medical Officer Dr. Alicia Bonady on NBC Radio Face-to-Face program said the giant African snail has harmful toxin that can lead to meningitis.
There's a certain what we call their mucus, or there's a toxin, there's a nematode that they give off, and this once it gets on our hands and it then gets into our eyes, our mouth, so we touch it, we then take our hands and put it in our mouth. This is how it gets into our mucous membranes, and it can lead to an infectious disease known as meningitis. So meningitis is an infection which affects the lining of the brain and the spinal cord, what you call the meninges. So the classic signs of meningitis that you would look out for in the adults would include a headache. So the person would complain about this extremely excruciating headache. Despite the use of painkillers, they can't get rid of this headache, doc. So there's a intense headache. There's also neck stiffness. So I would ask the person to put their chin to their chest, and this would elicit pain. So there's neck stiffness, there's headache, there's fever, vomiting. Those are your classic signs that you suspect someone has meningitis in an adult. Of course, we know the children wouldn't exactly tell me, Doc, I'm having a headache, especially if it's a small child. So for a small child now, the things that we would look out for would be like, you would tell me the child isn't eating as well. The child may just be very lethargic. I can't get the child to wake up, doc. The child keeps sleeping all the time. So these are suspected signs of meningitis. So fever, vomiting, decreased appetite, lethargy. Just these are the signs that you would look for in a child when you would want to suspect meningitis, and definitely want to get that child to your nearest health district. So meningitis is treatable once detected early. The person would have to come in to get fluids. Of course, you would check their hydration status, IV fluids, and IV antibiotics. In some purposes, we may need to do what we call a lumbar spine, take a tap of some of the fluid from their spine, send that off to test to confirm the meningitis. However, just based on their classic symptoms, we are able to make a diagnosis, and we would start our treatment as soon as possible.
Removing a number plate from your vehicle onto another is an illegal act, and you can be charged with misuse of identification mark. This is according to Sergeant of Police Wendell Correndon, who on the Cop Chat program on the WeFM today said a person found guilty of such an offense can be fined or confined.
Also, you can be charged for maybe that vehicle that you place that registration number on may not be registered. You also can be charged for using an unregistered vehicle. These charges carries an imprisonment sentence of 1 year. Also, you can be charged up to $2,500. You can even lose your driver's license under these charges. So, Crystal, I must say, it's a wonderful question that the public must know the seriousness of these charges. If they are caught by traffic officers on our roads, police officers on our roads doing checks or stop and search or doing just random search, random checks, you are to desist from doing this because you can be in prison for 1 year, lose your driver's license for a year. Also, 2,500 out of your pocket, Christian, is a lot of money.
Sergeant Caradon is also advising motorists to utilize the manufacturer horn and exterior lights which came with their vehicles, noting that they should desist from making illegal modifications to the vehicle interior or exterior.
I must say, and there are some private vehicles that are using these blast horns, sounding like trucks. Yeah. So you approaching a corner and you hear this loud horn coming. So you're bracing yourself for a trailer, a truck coming around the corner, not to behold a private vehicle, a little Jeep coming around, or a van coming around with this horn. This is an offense under the law. You must use the horns that are certified by the inspector here and the commissioner of police. Also, some people use the sirens in their vehicle. So, or they might use the alarm system, which may make a sound like the siren. So you're coming around the corner and you hear something sounding like a siren coming around. It is an offense under the law, and it says that if you're caught with using these sirens, you can be charged up to $2,500.
The Forestry Services Unit in the Ministry of Agriculture, Rural Transformation, Forestry and Fisheries earlier this week launched its 2023 annual summer program at Emmanuel High School in Mesopotamia. About 30 students from the Marico constituency are participating in the summer program being held under the theme From Forest to Ocean Biodiversity Conservation with the slogan Reimagine, Recreate, Restore. Speaking at the launching ceremony, Forest Supervisor Casmus McLeod said the summer program seeks to give children a better idea of what the Forestry Department does.
Program. And I can assure you that we are going to have an exciting week together. And one of the things that we do in forestry to incorporate our community and our children and to give them a better hands-on experience as to what we do in forestry, what the forestry department is all about. Some of the activities we undertake on a daily basis is that we organize our annual summer program, where we invite persons from the department with different area of discipline to come in and do presentation to you and to do practical exercises. We are not going to make this a program where we just lecture to you. We are going to make it a very interactive program. So hopefully everybody will become integrally involved and a part of it.
McLeod said he is happy that they can pass on their knowledge to the children, which will be good for the future of the forestry department and the environment.
I am very happy to see all of you here. Being from the Marico Valley myself, I can associate with some of your faces. I see people as far as Freeland, Montague, Belmont, Evesham, probably Riley, and then Mesopotamia proper. So we have a very good representation of the valley, and we know we are within the Marico or Montreal watershed area. Well, normally we say Yambu, collectively Montreal and Majorca. So this is going to bring us a good opportunity to be able to learn about our surroundings, learn about our watershed, and to have an opportunity to interact with us.